This video tutorial will give you a tour around Adobe Photoshop 2020. Okay, so you have started up Photoshop with fresh preferences, and this is what it looks like. So it remembers that I am logged in with my account information. One of the first things I do when I start up Photoshop is I get myself as much screen real estate as possible. So I pull out the corners and fill up the screen. Now, this is just the start screen, and we can't really see anything that like menu headings and what have you. So we're going to do that, we can either create something new or we can open up an existing document. I'm going to open up an existing document just so that we can work around inside Photoshop. Okay, so I have this document open. I call it redbox.jpg, and let's just look at the entire Photoshop environment. Along the very, very top of the screen, you will see that it says File, Edit, Image, Layer, Type, Select, Filter, etc. These are called menus. So if I say, well, it's in the Layer menu, you would go up to the Layer menu and you would select your option from in there. Okay, moving down the line, right below the menu is the Options bar. The Options bar will show you the options available for the tool that is selected. And by default, the marquee tool, or this rectangular object with a dashed line, will show up. And we'll be using this tool quite a bit, but just so I can show you, as I click around, the options change. So this bar is called our toolbar, and the toolbar is customizable. That's what this button down here is, Edit Toolbar, but we're not going to do that right now. So let me just explain a few more things about the toolbar. So it's kind of broken up into sections and doesn't look that way, but all the tools from this eyedropper up allow you to make selections and changes to the document. Below that, starting with this thing that looks like a handbag but is a band-aid, all the way down to this button right here, which is called the dodge tool. These will change the pixels on the screen. Below that, we have this calligraphy pen. It's called a pen tool. And all the way down to this rectangle, which is the rectangle tool. These are vector shape tools. And then below that, we have a hand and a magnifying glass. These two will help you navigate around your screen and the canvas. Okay, then below that, we have the color picker. So let's talk about the color picker right now. So this button right here shows us that we can default the colors. So if we switch these colors around to something else and we want to switch it back to the black and white, we would just click on that and it would default these back to the original colors. So this icon over here, this little double-sided arrow, will swap these two colors. So if I click on that, those two colors swap. So what are these two colors? This one on top, and it looks like it's sitting on top of this white square, this is called our foreground color. The foreground color comes in handy when we are painting. So if I went and grabbed this paintbrush tool right now, I gotta make it a little bigger so we'll see what it does. When I use it, it will paint in that foreground color. If I swap those colors, I will paint with white. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. And a nice new feature of Photoshop is that we have unlimited undos. All right, so I'm going to default these colors back to the black and white, black foreground and white background. So what's the background color for? So if I have a layer, and if we look at the layers panel, this is called a layer panel. Right now it says background and it's got this lock on it. There are different kinds of locks, but this lock is gray with a white stroke on it. If I were to erase right now, this is the eraser tool, I will be erasing And what I'll see behind it is white because that is the background color. So let's see what happens if I switch them. Oh, look at that. So I am erasing to the background color. So I'm just going to undo that and default us back. This next button down here is called the quick mask mode, and if you enter into quick mask mode, things will act a little funky, but we'll get back to that at some point during the semester. And below that is our viewing modes. So if I click on this, and the shortcut is the F key, we'll see this screen in different ways. So if I click on it here, see now some of my menus have changed around. If I click on it again, I'll be looking at it in full view. So what happened to my menus? If I hover close enough to a menu, it will show up. So they haven't gone anywhere. And again, the keyboard shortcut is F. So if I'm out here and I hit the F key, I will flip-flop between these different screen modes. So sometimes you'll have your have a textbook or something sitting on your keyboard, hitting the F key, and you don't know where all your menus went. Well, that's where they went. That's our options bar and our toolbar, and they work hand in hand. Next up, I'm going to show you this little tab here. This tab is showing me that I have a document open, and I can have a ton of tabs up here. So the more documents I have open, the more tabs I will see. Now, the tabs will look different based on which one is active. And whichever one is active, the layers panel, we're back to this layers panel, will show us thumbnails of what we see on the screen. Now, what is this screen called? We call this the Photoshop canvas. Also, things that are located up here in this tab is also telling us how much we're zoomed in, how much we see of this image. So right now we're zooming in at 33.3%. This is made up of RGB, red, green, blue color channels, and it is an 8-bit document. So down here we can also see how much we're zoomed in. Okay, so let's just move on over to the right side now. Okay, so right now this workspace or this environment that we see is called the Essentials workspace. So if I click on this little down arrow, you'll see that we are in Essentials. But there are other ones that come along with Photoshop, like Motion, that will bring up the timeline. There's also Photography. So you'll see the more menus that are relevant to the type of usage of Photoshop. So we're going to go back to Essentials. Now, I rarely, and we probably won't for this class, use the Libraries panel. If you don't want to use a panel, you simply click on the panel's name and drag it out, and then you'll see that there's a little X and you can close it. So I have just changed the Essentials workspace. And if I want to go back to the way it used to look, I can go back there and say Reset Essentials. And there it is. But I do want to get rid of it. So I'm going to close it out. So let's talk about some of these things over here. We also have several other panels. So we already looked at the Layers panel. Inside the Layers panel, or alongside it, we also have a panel set. And in this panel set is channels and paths. They look similar, but they do behave differently. Above that, we have the Properties panel. And along with that, in this panel set, we have adjustments. And above that, we have the color, swatches, and gradients panel, and we have more options in there. So these are all adjustable. I can hover my mouse between them and resize them. So sometimes your Layers panel gets so long that you need to enlarge it. And if this isn't enough for you, you can drag it out and also drag it down. If I want to put this back into this panel set, I just drag this heading and hover over until it shows up in here and release it. If I want to change the order, click and drag it and move it around. So these are all completely customizable for you. The next part of the panels I want to show you is this like hot menu. These panels will show up temporarily and you can minimize them pretty easily. The issue with these, and I'll just show you an example, I'll stick some more panels in here, is that I can only look at one at a time. Whereas if they were sitting over here, I could see them all at the same time. So you have to pick and choose where you want your panels to be and what you want to be seeing at each time, but it is convenient. Now let's say I do close this out and I close out a few others and I want them back. And I don't know how to get them back without resetting the Essentials panel. You can also go to the Window menu and find all of them listed here. So here's Layers. It's not checked. If I check it, it will show up in the last location I had it. And I can place it back. I'll open up Properties as well. And all these are adjustable as far as the width is concerned, so that you can see them a little bit better. Now all of this is customizable, as I mentioned, so if you want to save the workspace in the way that you have it, you would just say New Workspace and you would tell it how you want to save it. Give it a name and say, well, I want to also capture along with this the keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbar, because each one of these things is also customizable. I'm just going to hit cancel because I don't need to save this one. If you want to change some of your menu settings or your keyboard shortcuts, you can go to the Window menu, Workspace, and go to Keyboard Shortcuts and Menus. Or you can also go to the Edit menu and change your keyboard shortcuts, menus, and toolbar. So this will take you to the same window regardless of which method you use to get there. And I can go into, let's see, keyboard shortcuts. So let's say in the Edit menu, I want to change the keyboard shortcut for fill. Instead of doing Shift F5, I want that to be Command F. So I type in Command F and it says, hey, wait, Command F is already in use and will be removed from Edit Search if accepted. And I'm okay with that. So I say accept and go to the conflict. And then I go to the conflict and I have the option to change it or not. On menus, you have the option to highlight things. So let's say I use Paste Special often. Maybe I want to label that in red. Maybe I never use Copy Merged, so I want to hide it. So when I go now, and I'll say okay, when I go now to the Edit menu, Paste Special is there and Copy Merged is not there. So you have the option to change those at any time and save this all as a workspace. That pretty much covers navigating around in the Photoshop environment. The next video I suggest you watch is how to zoom in and zoom out and navigate inside a document.